Well, hey, everybody, look, we're both in the frame this time.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Like, literally, like, a minute before the show started,
What are you doing now?
something went in my eye, and I can't
Yeah.
get it out. So.
Pookie's trying to dig through the side of a book. Don't do it, Pook. That's a good book. That looks like a new book.
What is she
She's trying to do that over there.
Pookie, knock it off.
As soon as the show starts, she starts acting up.
Yeah, because she, look.
Yeah. Now she's pushing. Stop pushing on spot.
She's pushing on spot.
She's mad. She doesn't want to start doing the show.
Yeah, she's like, you guys, why don't you talk to me?
Mm-hmm.
So hey everybody. Hugo says, Happy Goth Day, everyone. Yeah, is it World Goth Day? I thought that was yesterday, but I don't remember. I just saw some people posting about it on Facebook. I'm goth every day, so
Yeah.
so I don't worry too much about it. But yeah, so it's Monday, and we're talking about a haunting, making our way slowly through season 5.
Yeah. This is a good one.
This was actually a good episode.
Yeah, in the early seasons, they always had some about haunted bars or restaurants, and a lot of those I thought were some of the weaker episodes of the early seasons. But in season 5, this one is actually a pretty strong episode. I like it. You know, they actually describe some pretty strange phenomenon, and there are a lot of witnesses, and they actually show the witnesses give testimonies. People that worked at the restaurant. It's a restaurant bar, I guess.
Yeah, it seemed like a restaurant with a bar in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that type of thing.
Weird shit happening. Throwing objects and being watched, and psychics get involved in fucking portals and shit.
Lots of psychics.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when you call a psychic, they're always going to get some portals.
They're gonna
some
find a
mirror
portal.
portals involved.
Yeah, it's because mirrors are in every fucking structure.
That's
they're
why.
coming out of this. Yeah.
Obviously. Just like a person comes through a door.
Yeah.
All the ghosties come through the mirror.
Through a mirror. That's just psychics trying to find a fucking
Angle.
reason, an angle. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Not saying that it's not a real case. It's just saying psychics and mediums and shit come in there and sell a narrative.
Yeah, for sure. Murder Hornet said an episode that doesn't have From the Grave in the title. Yeah, this one is just called The Uninvited, which I have to say that's also a really generic title, and it doesn't have fuck all to do with anything in the story, but, you know, what else is new? Like, none of them do, really. I don't know why they didn't call it, because usually if they have one that's set in a bar or restaurant or something, it'll be like, you know, like the Haunting of the Wheat Sheaf Inn or whatever, because that was that one that we did. So they'll usually name it after the place, but they didn't this time. It's just called The Uninvited, and like I said, it doesn't have anything to do with the haunting, so I don't know why they called it that, but whatever. It was just one of the, just in the little, what do you call it, where they just kind of like pick names out of a hat. It's just like a random title generator. So yeah, so this is season 5, episode 8. And I remembered this one, but I didn't remember this one being like a really good... I think this is one of the strongest episodes of season 5, for sure. Even though, like you said, usually the ones set in bars, like in the earlier seasons, were usually not quite as good as like the haunted house ones, but this one's actually pretty good. So yeah. So the cold open on this one, like the little flash forward that they kept doing, starting in season 5, showed somebody getting strangled with a necklace that was like pulling itself up by itself and, strangling the person. So that was kind of like your little teaser opening there. And then they jump ahead. Well, no, they jump behind because they go 2 years earlier. So apparently all of these events started to happen in, I believe it was 2007. That's what I wrote down anyway. And we got a married couple, Jason and Lynn Ryder. Now this happened, I neglected to write down the name of the town, but for sure it was Connecticut somewhere. I just don't remember what the name of the town was because I was trying to write it too fast and I didn't write it down. So apparently Jason, the hubby, he buys this kind of local hangout spot, like this restaurant bar that's called Maury's. And they said this is pretty much like one of the iconic, bars in town where like everybody goes and everybody hangs out. They're like, it's kind of like the Cheers of whatever this town is, you know what I mean? And I guess that Jason and Lynn had some of their dates there and all this other kind of stuff, and had talked about, oh, one of these days we should buy a restaurant or buy this place or whatever. So Jason actually like surprises her by buying this restaurant, which I don't know if that's the kind of surprise I'd be like real happy about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that seems like a large investment, and that's going to be a large time investment because obviously running a bar and a restaurant is very, very time consuming and very, very expensive and very, very stressful.
You got to know what you're doing.
And you got to know what you're doing, which I don't think these people did initially. They seem to get their shit together, but they seem to be like one of those people, which you see a lot on like Kitchen Nightmares and stuff, where it's just like, well, I just always wanted to run a restaurant. Like, I can't cook, and I never worked in a restaurant, or
how hard could it be?
How hard could it be? I just thought it'd be a neat idea.
Yeah.
And then they get there and they're like, oh my god, this sucks. It's so hard.
They don't even know how to hire a good chef or a cook. You know, they wouldn't know a good one from a bad one.
Yeah.
They don't know proper procedures or practices. Nothing. They didn't know food storage. So, you know.
Yeah, dumb.
Yeah, dumb.
I mean, why would you spend that much money?
Yeah.
And, like, running a restaurant is basically a 24/7 proposition. You're going to be there all the fucking time.
Can't run front of house. They don't know how to hire a person who can run front of house. They don't even know what to look for.
Yeah.
You can't just run a restaurant.
No, it's not like... I mean, running any business is difficult.
You'll run it into the ground.
Yeah, running any business is difficult, but running a restaurant and a bar is particularly difficult. It is one of the most difficult businesses.
And I'm going to say this. I know both of these subjects and have personal experiences in them. You'd be much more likely to be able to successfully fly and land a Cessna aircraft than you would successfully manage a restaurant without any training.
Right. Yeah,
you're gonna fucking crash that bitch.
It's gonna be a shit show.
Yeah, you'd much better. Have a much better chance of landing in an airplane.
Like I said, why do you think that there are so many shows about like fucking Gordon Ramsay has like 5 bajillion different shows about that, and then there's also a bunch of other people that have that shows. Don't they have like Bar Rescue and all those other kind of shows too? Because people buy this shit, they think it's like a cool idea, and then they're like, oh wait, it's actually hard work. Fuck that.
Yeah, at least an airplane is a machine and it's predictable. Restaurants are not predictable. They're not machines. A lot of it's just feel and staff. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get fucked.
Thank you, Murder Hornet, giving us a super chat.
Thank you, buddy.
For Tom's Trend Fund.
Oh, LOL. Shit, yeah. No.
Don't encourage him.
I'm done with Trend.
He's got other stuff, but we're not doing that anymore.
No, NPP. But...
We're not doing that anymore. Yeah. So Jason's like, hey, surprise, Lynn, I bought this restaurant. Remember how we were talking about that? And she's like, oh, great. You know what I mean? I guess she was like pretty jazzed about it. So they actually renamed the restaurant after themselves. They name it Ryders. And I think it's called Ryders on Main or whatever the fuck the name of the street was. I couldn't really see it. So the next thing that the narrator said was, Lynn and Jason find out that running a bar is more challenging than they expected. And I was like, yeah, no shit. You think? It is very challenging. Now, so aside from all of the regular, just everyday challenges that you would have running a restaurant or bar, obviously, they're also having a couple little weird things happen from the beginning. The first thing that they noticed a lot was shot glasses in particular, like, kept disappearing. Like, Lynn would order a case of them, and then she's like, a few days later, we'd be down to, like, fucking 6 shot glasses, and I couldn't figure out where the fuck they were all going. It's like, are people stealing them, or, are the employees breaking them and not telling me, or what the hell is happening? So they all start disappearing, and also, Lynn said that her keys started disappearing. She's like, that happened pretty much every day. She's like, she would just put the keys down, and you'd turn around, and they'd be gone, and like they would spend like an hour looking for them, and then finally they would find them. And she's like, and that happened like pretty much every day too. So Lynn has been coming in early, like every morning, like working on the paperwork and all that kind of stuff, like before everybody else gets there, so she can have some peace and quiet. And she didn't have a problem at first, but then one particular morning she hears somebody, like she's in the back room, and she hears somebody, it sounds like somebody's out in the restaurant, even though nobody's there. Like, it's all locked up and everything like that. It sounds like somebody's kind of, like, scraping around out there. And she's like, what the fuck? And then she hears somebody say her name. And she's like, and they didn't just say her name, like, hey, Lynn. They said her first name and her middle name. She said Lynn Marie, which really freaked her out. And I actually really liked the creepy effect they did on the voice. I couldn't figure out like what effect they were putting on it. It almost sounded like a weird metallic kind of shit. And I don't know if that's really what it sounded like, but that's what they did in the show, and I thought it was like really creepy. But yeah, so she heard a voice saying like Lynn Marie, like right. She said it sounded like somebody yelling for her from in the restaurant. You know what I mean? Like it was her husband or her dad, or because her dad works there too. And she's like, but obviously nobody was there. But that's what she thought it was, and she said it was super freaky. So, so she tells Jason about this, but like most of the dudes in a haunting history, he's just like, oh, you're just tired. You're imagining things. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've been so tired that I heard ghosts saying my name. Not. But you know what I mean. So a few days after that is Super Bowl Sunday. And obviously this is a restaurant bar, so they're going to have like a big party for that. So Lynn is down in the stock room, I guess, which is, it looked like, she said it kept saying basement. So I guess like the stock room is down in the basement. And she said while she was down there, she felt somebody tapping her on the shoulder, like from behind. She said that it tapped her once and she like turned around like, what the, like, because she thought somebody was there, and then it tapped again like much harder, like it was trying to get her attention. You know what I mean? But obviously nobody was there. Like she goes, and there were other people like in the bar, but they were all upstairs. So she like went up and was like, hey, did somebody just come down there? And they're like, no, you know, it's whatever. So over the next few weeks, apparently, Lynn said a whole bunch of other like weird shit would happen to her like that, like while she was around the thing, but nobody else was experiencing anything at first. And so she's like, everybody was basically just like making fun of her about it. I'm like, well, that's nice. You know, they were just like, oh, did your ghost do that? You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, she was probably feeling like, man, fuck you motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? It's like, shit's scary. But then it so happens that, like I said, her dad helps them run the place, right? Because that was her dad, right? That older dude, I think. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm answering a question.
Oh. Well, I'm asking you a question, too.
Yeah.
So you
what was the question again?
Never mind.
Okay.
So, so the dad is there, and he's taking some beer bottles, like he has like cases of beer bottles, and he's taking them down to the storeroom because I guess they came in like a shipment or whatever. And when he comes back up, he said that there were beer bottles just like spread out like all over the floor. And he's like, and I could not for the life of me like figure out how that had happened, because it's like I just went down the stairs, there was nobody else in the bar but me, and I came up and there was just like beer bottles all over the floor, and they'd all previously been in the boxes. So at this point he's like, huh, well, that's pretty weird. And then the next day he's there again, like by himself, I'm presuming in the morning, and he's going to stock the beer cooler, and the door shuts behind him while he's in the cooler and traps him in there, even though nobody else is in the place. Now, like I said, he basically, because we were saying, well, obviously, if you have like a walk-in freezer like in your restaurant, you can't get locked in there. That, you know, it doesn't do that. So I'm assuming that they're saying that it was like a paranormal type of shit, like it, you know, like it locked or something was holding it shut or something like that, because he said that he couldn't get it open.
That was the weird thing. There wasn't much detail though about that event.
Right.
I mean, normally in any modern structure, you can't be locked inside of a cooler.
Yeah, I mean, that would be...
that can't happen.
Right, that would be really dumb if they made it. Because, I mean, you can go in the cooler... Like, the door fucking shuts by itself all the time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there should be, they open on both sides, and I don't think they're lockable.
Yeah,
and made sure that didn't happen anymore.
Yeah, I don't really see why it would have to be lockable. That's the thing.
No.
Like, it's not like it's Fort Knox or anything like that. It's just frozen food in there, like, you know.
Yeah, well, in a freezer, for sure, they would make it so you couldn't lock it.
Yeah.
You could accidentally lock an employee in there, and it kills them.
Right.
They can't get out.
That's what I mean. So because there's absolutely no reason.
Somebody's in there. You're closing down for the night. Somebody went in there to go do something, and you don't think there's anybody in there, and you fucking stick a damn pin through it to lock it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then walk out, not knowing that Joey was in there.
Poor Joey.
You know, he tries to get out, and that's it. He's dead. You left for the night. You locked him in a damn freezer. Shit like that has happened in the past. So they made sure that. Last I heard, maybe that's state laws, but any state I was in, there was no way to lock a freezer.
And like I said, there's really no reason for you to have to.
Well, they would say, well, it's to keep people from stealing it. Man, it's not to keep people from stealing it. They broke into the place trying to get the frozen food. They brought bolt cutters with them.
Right.
They just cut the lock.
And it's like, so you'd rather like have like the off chance that somebody's gonna steal some frozen food, you'd rather like leave open the possibility that somebody's gonna get trapped in there and die.
Yeah.
That figures.
Yeah. And then if you go to like a 7-Eleven, the walk-in cooler, where all the little soda cans are and shit, those can't lock in either. But even if they did, you could just fucking pull the damn soda out of the way and crawl out through the fucking doors, the big glass doors where they open to get the soda cans.
Yeah.
There's no way to lock anybody into those things. They make sure.
I was just thinking though of that whole plot point in The Shining.
Yeah.
Where Wendy locked him. Now that wasn't the freezer. That was like the dry storage. Mm-hmm. But the freezer had a lock on it too, did it not? The dry storage for sure had a lock because Jack couldn't get it.
The dry storage had it, but that wasn't. Back in those days, they'd have that probably. There'd be no reason. No safety reason where you couldn't lock it. But you might want to lock employees out of it, not into it.
So they can't go in there and steal your beanie weenies?
Yeah, shit like that. But, they also made it so there's no way to lock a refrigerator.
Yeah.
Because kids would go into abandoned refrigerators and shut the door behind them. There's no way out. They'd fucking cook to death in there in the fucking summer heat.
Yeah, that happened a few times. I remember hearing some horrible stories about that.
Yeah. Kid went missing, and they'd fucking days later find him dead inside a fucking old abandoned refrigerator.
Didn't they make it a rule too that if you were throwing out a refrigerator, you had to like take the door off?
Yeah, that was back when those refrigerators were around. They're long gone now.
Yeah, they don't have them like that anymore. Like a lot of things are a lot
safer. They made sure there's
nowadays.
No way anything can lock from the inside, and nothing can lock.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, there's really no reason.
There's no reason for it.
That it needs to. So her dad got locked in the cooler. Now he gets out, like I guess he struggles in there for a while, like, oh shit, I'm gonna fucking die in here. But he does get it open, and then in the interim, like Lynn has got there, and she's like, what the fuck happened? She's like, man, there was nobody here, and somebody fucking closed me in this cooler. This, it's crazy. And so Lynn said he looked like really, really scared. So she's like, now finally, like at least her dad starts to believe her that maybe there is like some pretty weird shit going on around here. So they talk to Lynn's mom about it, and she says, well, maybe you should go to a psychic, because, that's their answer for everything. So the first psychic comes, because there's like a whole succession of psychics, I'm just telling you right now, like who trooped through this place. They each got their own little story. But, so the first one comes in and says, there are 2 spirits in here, that's what I'm sensing, and they're not happy with all the changes that you made to the place. I'm presuming like the name change or whatever else they did. Now the psychic, according to Lynn, who was really on the show, she said that this first psychic I don't think the first psychic actually came to the bar. She went with her mom to that psychic, like a storefront psychic. And that woman said, oh, you own a bar, don't you? And she said, yeah. She's like, yeah, there are a couple spirits in there. They don't like that you've been fucking with the stuff and like changing it from how it was. And then said, oh, has a bunch of stuff gone missing? And Lynn said, yeah. And she's like, oh, well, you'll find it like under this particular box, like in the storeroom or like in the basement or whatever. And so Lynn was like, holy shit. So as soon as she gets back to the restaurant, allegedly, she goes down to the storeroom and moves this box that the psychic said it's a box like in a particular corner or whatever, and moved it, and that's where all the missing shot glasses were like on the floor, like underneath this box, according to her. So she's like, the psychic knew that without even going to the bar, because I don't think the first psychic actually even came to the bar. She just like told her some shit like in her own little office or whatever. So they found all those. Now Lynn says to Jason, her husband, look, the psychic said that the shot glasses are going to be here, and here they are. That's like pretty freaky. And Jason looks at her like she has 3 heads and says, don't go telling the employees that kind of stuff, because they'll think you're a nutcase. That was the word he used, nutcase.
Yeah.
He came off as a little bit of a jerk, I gotta say. On this, like the real guy, he did come off as like a little bit of a jerk. Don't tell the employees that, they'll think you're a nutcase. I'm like, that's nice. Very, very supportive. Thank you, Jason. So yeah. Because he hasn't seen anything yet. But, he'll get his in a minute. So a week after that, Lynn ends up hiring a bouncer whose name is Tito. Now, apparently they didn't tell Tito anything about the haunting, and I guess he didn't know anything about it beforehand, or so they all claimed. Now, he goes down to the basement, but he's, like, kind of creeped out by it. He said it was, like, just really oppressive and, like, really cold down there. And at one point, he goes down there, like, to put some shit away, and something came flying at him. It was, like, a big roll of register tape, like, came flying at him. And he's, like, at first, he thought it was Jason just, like, fucking with him, because he was, like, kind of a prankster, so he was, like, just thought he threw it, but he wasn't there. So he's like, okay, that was pretty fucking weird. So register tape flying at him. The same night, after the restaurant closes, Tito stays late, like, helping to clean up and everything like that. And he's in, I think he was in the kitchen, right? Was he in the kitchen or the storeroom? I can't really remember, because I was, like, looking up and down, like, while I was writing.
When the bowls?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the kitchen near the...
yeah, it looked like the kitchen.
Near the dish pit, where they wash the dishes.
Yeah. So, yeah, like, a bunch of bowls and pans and shit, like, just started hurling themselves at him, apparently. So... Yeah. As the ghost did not like Tito, apparently. They just kept flinging shit at the poor dude. I know. And he seemed like a nice man, you know what I mean? Because the real guy was on there.
It was a racist ghost.
It was. Maybe that's what it was.
Didn't like black people.
I guess that's what it was.
The worst kind of ghost, racist ghost.
Yeah.
This is my house. Remember that?
Yeah. Poor Tito. He got all kind of shit thrown at him. So, yeah. He's like, all right, never mind. We never find out what happened to Tito, though. Even though, like, the real guy was on the show, like, talking about all the shit.
He was credible. He was credible. Something happened. He thought somebody was messing with him and threw a roll of register tape at him, but nobody threw it. And then some bowls came flying down at him.
Yeah.
Or it made it look like they flew down at him. They at least fell off the top of the shelves.
Yeah, they might have dramatized it, because it was pretty dramatic. Like in the show, it was like.
Yeah, it spooked him.
You know.
I believe him. He saw. That's what he saw. I don't know. Maybe somebody did throw a roll of tape at him and it never fessed up. But there's no way of knowing. Maybe the shit just fell. I don't know.
Ben said ghosts.
Freaked him out.
Ben said ghosts are very big on being white.
Yeah, that's right. They say, you're not white. What the hell, man?
And they wear sheets.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe that's what it is. We figured it out. We figured it out for you, Tito. But yes, that's why the ghosts are throwing shit at you. So yeah. Like I said, I don't know what happened to Tito after that. I don't know if he was like, yeah, fuck this place, and was like left, but I don't know, because I don't think they talked to him again after that. Later that night, though, so I'm assuming this is like the middle of the night, because this is like way after the restaurant and bar closes, and, you know, Lynn and Jason went home and are sleeping. So the phone rings at the Ryder house. So they're like, alarm has gone off at the restaurant. Now, Jason said this time the alarm went off, he's like, this was the third time this week. Like, the alarm just kept fucking going off, and it's like there was nobody in there. Like, nobody ever broke in, but it just kept going off. And he's like, this time, the cops didn't even bother to show up, because they're just like, man, fuck that. It's just like, you must be getting some shit in your alarm system, because we're not even bothering. So, Jason goes, though, because it's his restaurant. And he goes in there, and he's like, you know, it doesn't look like anybody broke in or anything like that. But when he's going through the restaurant, he can see, like, the kind of swinging door that goes, like, to the kitchen in the back. And he can see, like, light underneath it. And he's like, in that light underneath the crack of the crack in the bottom of the door, he said he saw, like, 3 black shadows. Like, there were people moving around in the kitchen. So, of course, he thinks, oh, some motherfuckers did break in after all. So he grabs a baseball bat, and he's, like, you know, getting ready to fucking throw down or whatever. So he kicks open the kitchen door, but, of course, nobody's in there. Like, you know, so the shadows he saw, who knows what that was. So he's like, okay, whatever. So he goes back home, and then an hour later, the alarm goes off again. And he said it went off 5 times that night. Now, in the reenactment, they also showed the jukebox coming on by itself, but he didn't say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they did show it, and I think that happened later, too. But nobody mentioned that happening, but they did show it a couple of times in the reenactment. So I don't know if they just said it on shit that they edited out, or if they were just, like, making shit up. I don't really know. And then a little while later, because up until this point, I feel like people that were like the patrons of the bar or the restaurant weren't really seeing anything or weren't really experiencing any of the stuff that like the employees and stuff were seeing. However, there was one point where they're like some guys are playing pool because they have like a pool table in there. And apparently the cue ball like jumped up like in this really weird way that didn't look like it could do it naturally.
Yeah.
Although we were watching that and I was like, well, I mean, it would have to be like go up and float like this. I've seen like people like pop a cue ball like up over.
I've seen them fucking jump them.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
But apparently this was weird enough that everybody was like, what the fuck?
Like,
we're not playing pool anymore.
Yeah. and the management was like, well, we need to fix this table. It may not be level type of deal. They were trying to make an excuse for it.
Yeah, because they didn't want to like freak everybody out. So obviously they didn't want to lose their business. They didn't want people to.
It's not 100% that was paranormal though.
I'm not sure. That might have just been somebody just might have hit it just right with the cue and it went flying. Because I've seen people do that. Like with
trick shots can do it.
Right. That's what I mean. Murder Hornet said Tom's head, aka cue ball.
That's right.
What? Oh, who's talking about? Oh, Murder Hornet said my parents in Florida live in the middle of the forest. I helped them clear out a spot for the cabin, split many a log. I helped build their log cabin. Lord, it was awful in that Florida heat. I can imagine. Yeah. Did you build it in the summertime? How are you still alive? I don't even know how people work outside. Like, I feel so bad for people that work as roofers and stuff down here. Holy shit. How can they, like, not get heat stroke?
Because they're all South American.
I guess.
They're used to it. Well, people used to be used to it here, too.
Because I guess, like, all the white guys are like, they're just like...
People used to be tougher because, there was shit here before air conditioning. They were building houses here in the 1800s, back to the 1500s, or 1600s. I think 1500s there was stuff going on here. Spanish Empire stuff. It was fucking hot.
Well, yeah, St. Augustine was there in the 1500s.
Yeah, so,
Some of that shit was... Still standing there.
People have gotten soft. They didn't know any better, though.
That's what I mean. I don't even know if it's so much that. It's just like they didn't know any different. Yeah. Like it was just you just had to put up with it. And I'm sure it sucked. And I'm sure they bitched about it.
You acclimated to stuff, though. They didn't have air conditioning. So you just, when the summer came, you acclimated to it.
Well, I mean, you can acclimate to anything. Yeah. It's just that nowadays we don't really have to.
You never really acclimate because you got air conditioning.
Right. And it's like,
you get used to that.
I don't fucking want to be without air conditioning.
Yeah. We lost air conditioning one time, man, and these houses are fucking unlivable without air conditioning.
God, it's awful.
We had the fucking bathtub filled with cold water. We're getting in there, fucking trying to sleep on the floor because we tried to get as low as we possibly could. Remember that?
Yeah.
Getting in the middle of the night, miserable and shit, and getting in the cold bathtub to cool off, and then getting back out. It was fucking hot as
awful.
Shit.
Yeah, it feels like
you can't open the windows.
It feels like a hot, wet blanket sitting on your face, like you can't breathe through it.
You can't really open the windows because mosquitoes will come in.
And roaches and
roaches,
snakes and Lord knows what else.
And you open the window, and it doesn't get any cooler. It doesn't make any difference.
Because there's no breeze
there's no breeze
such.
It's just
kind of sits there. The air just kind of sits.
Yeah, it's like Vietnam.
It is. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
And then 2 days later, the fucking whole house fucking smells because the moisture has worked its way into the dirt in the carpeting.
Yeah. And everything smelled like a wet dog.
Everything smells like a wet dog. And you're like, damn. As soon as the air conditioner comes back on, about an hour later, it's all gone.
Yeah.
And you're vacuuming.
Well, like I said, you have to have air conditioning or everything will mold.
Yeah.
Within seconds.
2 days. Yeah.
You'll just have mold all over everything.
Yeah. Well, and abandoned houses don't mold up, or at least they do eventually. But yeah, it can happen. Depends on the moisture level. It definitely mold on the outside of the house.
Oh yeah,
easy. Houses go green if you don't fucking pressure wash them every now and then with bleach.
Camp guy said, "I hate sweating in my tighty whities." You have to keep it dry down there or suffer the fungal consequences. It's true. You can't go around with like a wet ass crotch. You just can't. So yeah, that's a problem that you have in Florida. I mean, they have the term swamp ass for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The struggle is real.
They had a British guy. He's a famous YouTuber named Carl Benjamin. He's known as Sargon of Akkad, and he brought his family down to Orlando to go to fucking Disney World. And he's in the hotel, and he opens up the hotel balcony and looks down to look at the area around Disney, and it's a swamp. And he goes, "You don't understand. Look at this shit." He goes, "I didn't expect it to be like this. This is a swamp, and it's hot as Satan's ass crack.
It is.
He says it is 100% humidity and over 100 degrees Fahrenheit here. And he says it's like being immersed in hot steam and being wrapped in plastic. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
how
exactly
miserable
what
it
it's
can
like.
be like. Yeah,
That's exactly what it's like.
yeah. On a hot summer, you're fucked. He was astounded.
That's why I don't even know
You're-
why people bother going in those fucking like saunas and stuff. I'm like, just go outside.
Yeah, go outside.
It feels exactly the same.
Especially right after a rain. Go outside after a rain.
Man, it stormed really bad today. Like almost my whole entire drive home.
Yeah.
Was like fucking
Rains
pouring,
every day.
pouring down rain.
Rains every day this time of year.
In the summer and into the autumn, yeah.
Yep.
Like, and we're not just talking like a little drizzle either.
Oh,
it's
pour,
like
downpour.
It's a downpour.
Yeah, and you never can tell. And I ride almost every day, so I get wet.
Yeah.
A couple days, I made it home before the rain hit. But that last time, a couple days later, I was coming back from Starbucks. And I look up in the road ahead of me, and I just see a black wall, a gray curtain coming my way. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Oh, well, here we go.
And it hit me. Boom! And it's just this fucking...
It's like a wall of water.
Well, it's a wall of water and rain. And even the cars in front of me started to swerve. We slowed down to about 20 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour. To just boom! I was sopping wet in about 3 seconds on a motorcycle, on that little Buell. XB9.
See, I worry about that.
Yeah. Well, you can just go off the road if it gets that bad.
I know, but
It's not a big deal.
I was
And
worried
even-
today because I didn't know if you were out riding today, and I was like coming home, and I was like, holy crap, look at this shit.
Yeah.
I could barely see, and I was in my fucking car.
Well, before I actually leave there, I'll look in the direction of the house and try to see if I can see rain, because it's only a few miles. It looked light over there, so I booked back.
Okay.
But it was coming.
Yeah.
It eventually came here.
The worst part today for me
Yeah.
driving home was like just the cars in front, because it was real windy too.
Yeah.
Like it was real windy, so it kept the car in front of me, and I tried to stay back, but it was like blowing all the water like into my windshield.
What's weird is it'll be
And it was like
100% humidity, 95 degrees, and then in a heartbeat you're hit with a wall of cold water, and it drops down to about 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
and then after
maybe
it's
50.
over, it gets like
And
even
then-
hotter.
Yeah, and it only does it for about 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour at most. And then all of a sudden the sun comes out and it boils all that fucking water off, and you're in a sauna. It's miserable.
Yeah.
Miserable. It'll get you.
Yeah, I told you it's like even in the house, like with the air conditioning on, like in the summertime, like you get out of the shower and you're just instantly sweaty again.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. I
It's
can't
just
stand the
how
weather
it
down here.
be. It's how it bees.
I can't
here.
stand the weather
It
down
bees that way here.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you don't like humidity, like don't even
Yeah.
think about it, because you're gonna have a bad time.
I got used to it.
It's weird because I was born here, and I'm really never have gotten used to it. You know.
Mississippi's even hotter.
So
Or it used to be when I was a kid. Not as bad as it used to be, but
Tammy said you really aren't selling Florida. I'm just saying. I'm just telling people, because I think people kind of think, oh, it's this vacation paradise and everything like that. I'm like,
well, it is.
I mean, it is, but
it's tropical.
yeah, subtropical. It's
yeah.
actually subtropical.
Subtropical, but I would call it tropical during
And
the
it's
summer.
like I said, it's a swamp.
It's a swamp.
Just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
If you don't like swampy ass, then you're gonna have a bad time, because it's like that for a large portion of the year.
Because I lived in Brazil too. You could say that Rio Amazonas, or the Amazon River Basin, is tropical. Florida's worse, much worse. It's a lot hotter. It's a lot hotter.
Yeah.
A lot more miserable. It might be subtropical, but during the rainy season in the summer, it's fucking miserable.
It is. Yeah.
It's super fucking hot.
Tammy says, I like my changing seasons way too much. Even enjoy snow. Yeah, that's one thing I always kind of wish that there were like season changes, because Florida doesn't really have seasons per
It has
se.
two. Cool and fucking hot.
Yeah, and cool is like maybe a month.
That's not that. It just seems that way to her.
Off and on.
It's like 5 months.
And then the rest of it is
Yeah.
just like hot as fuck.
Yeah.
Like we're not going outside hot. I'm just holding up in the house in,
Well,
in the AC.
It's not hot as fuck all the time during summer. 80s, 80s, high 70s for a couple months, and then it gets really fucking hot, and it goes back. It's got seasons. It's just got two, hot and cold.
There's just not a big distinction.
Not a big distinction, yeah.
It's not kind of like a delineation
Right,
between.
and I would, in in Korea they have a monsoon season, and I would call Florida summer is also kind of like monsoon season.
Yeah, it is.
It just
like
fucking rains every fucking day.
Like pretty much every afternoon, you're gonna have really bad thunderstorms and mild flooding and stuff.
Lightning strikes and shit.
Yep. Okay, so where were we? Oh, we were talking about the pool, the cue ball, like popping up. Okay, so that was kind of the first thing that like weirded out some of the patrons, I guess. Then there was this woman who was there, and she was in the bathroom, and I guess she was in there by herself, and she goes in the stall and, you know, does whatever she needs to do, and then comes out, and I guess there's all these big like scratches on the wall suddenly that were not there like prior to her going into the stall. So she wigs out. So she gets Lynn. She's like, I gotta show you some shit in here. So they go in there, and so Lynn said at this point more customers and stuff were starting to get kind of freaked out and like ask her about the disturbances. And again, she's kind of like wary of losing business, so she's kind of like trying to blow them off and be like, or make a joke about it, or come up with like some lame explanation or something, because she didn't want people, which is weird because they always kind of say that. It's like, oh, we didn't want nobody to show up or anything. I feel like if you said nowadays, hey, my shit's haunted, that like everybody would want to come there, you would think. Like I would lean into it. That'd be like a selling point, because there'd be a lot of people that would be into that, you know. I don't know, but she thought that, you know, people wouldn't come there because they'd be like scared or whatever, and I guess people were getting scared. So one day, one's in the summer, so Jason, who is good at fixing stuff around the bar, he's like fixing a pipe in the basement, and he said he felt this really, really intense, like a cold draft, and he's like, and it was a really hot day, it was like 90 degrees or something like that, and he said then he started seeing like people, like weird shadows, like out of the corner of his eye. Like he's like, I'd be, you know, doing whatever, and he's like, and I'd see what I thought was a person, and like I look over there and there was nobody there, you know what I mean? So he started to get like a little freaked out about that. And then one morning, Lynn hears that really creepy voice calling her name again. Like I said, not just Lynn, but it said Lynn Marie, like that was her first name and her middle name. And then she kind of goes out to see if somebody's out in the main restaurant, and apparently she didn't really say that this happened, because this is very dramatic, but she goes out into the regular restaurant, and like all the doors, because there's like the kitchen door and I guess like a bathroom door and like some door to some other shit, I don't know, and it like all, and they all started like swinging back and forth like by themselves, and then the jukebox comes on by itself again, and so it seemed like real intense, like all of this paranormal activity was going on, and she's kind of like freaking out, and the only thing she did say was that she felt like she was trapped like in the back corner of the restaurant. So I'm assuming that, you know, there was scary shit like going on in the other part of the restaurant, and she felt like she couldn't go there. And she also felt like, she said she felt like the air felt really tight, like you couldn't breathe. But I will note that I'm pretty sure she didn't, because I didn't write it down, that she did not say that the doors were swinging back and forth and that the jukebox came on by itself. But they did show that in the reenactment, so I don't know if that really happened or not. So Lynn decides she's going to call in yet another psychic who's like a friend of hers, who's like a clairvoyant or whatever. And this woman's name is Karen Hollis. Now, Karen Hollis shows up, and she says, you know, the same thing that they usually say when they show up. It's like, oh, the air feels really heavy, and it's like, it's really, like, it feels ice cold in here. And she said the first thing that you thought when you came into the place was that someone was thinking, why are you here? Like, you know, it felt like really, like you were really unwelcome. So Karen is the one that came up with the whole, oh, you've got this old mirror in, I think it was in the storeroom or the basement or whatever, and this is where they're coming in. This is the portal or whatever. They didn't really go too much into that, but you know what I mean. So we got a mirror portal going, and this is where the ghosts are coming in. So a week after that, Karen brings her paranormal team in to do an investigation. Now, one of the guys on the team like looks into kind of the backstory, the history behind this bar, which is now called Ryders. It was called Maury's. They said it was actually originally, when it was built in the 1800s as 2 residences that were like right next door to each other. And then at some point, the wall was torn out in between them, and then it was made into like various stores. Like they said, it was a feed store, it was a paint store, blah blah blah. And then, it eventually became Maury's, and then they bought it. Now they thought that there had been 2 deaths in there in a fire that happened in 1976, but they did not elaborate on this, so I don't know how true any of that is, but that was something they were speculating about. So while Karen is down in the basement trying to like suss out what the ghost situation is, she said that she felt an entity over her left shoulder, and while they were doing I guess she was doing or like recording stuff or like asking questions or like kind of like an EVP type situation. But she said, and this wasn't an EVP, she said she heard it just like a disembodied voice, just like coming out of the air. She said she heard a voice say, "I'm so weak." Okay, so I don't know if they recorded it or not, but she said she heard that. And so she apparently like asked the ghost, like, "What do you mean weak? Like physically or emotionally?" And the ghost said both. So, and that wasn't on recording. That was, she said she just heard it with her ears. So she says, yeah, you got at least 2 entities in here. But one of them is the one that's causing all the trouble. The other one seems like not really, like, doesn't talk or doesn't want to communicate or whatever. So they set up like a laser grid type situation in the basement. And then one of the team, when he was working on it, like felt a tap on the back of his head and then saw the grid kind of move or like undulate, like something was walking through it. And then one of the other investigators, I think it was the same guy, I don't remember if it was the same guy or a different guy on the team, but I guess it doesn't really matter. But one of the investigators said that something ran through him, and the analogy that he used was like sand through a screen door. Like a ghost ran through him like that. Because he, like, I guess he was over doing something or other over in this corner, and he was like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, he, like, hunched over, and they're like, what the fuck happened to you, Earl, or whatever the fuck his name was? And, I think it was Kurt, actually. And, he was like, oh, something just went through me, you know what I mean? But like I said, that's very subjective. You don't know if that happened or not.
During that Mammoth Mountain incident that I told Jenny about, and she wrote the book on, there were kind of like instances where both me, Lois, and Red felt like something passed through you, but it was like a zone of cold went through you. But we were like, yeah, I think it went through me. But there's no way of really knowing. Like you said, it's subjective. It's invisible.
Yeah.
It's not like a wind, because you feel wind on the skin. It's kind of like what he said, kind of like sand going through a screen door, kind of like, yeah, it penetrated through you. But you're like, did I imagine that because I'm scared? You know, you don't know. It's just, it's difficult. It's difficult to tell what was real. You know when something moved, but some of the stuff was just vague visual effects and sensory stuff. But like I said, that's subjective.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. That's why I can't really hang with a lot of those ghost shows, because a lot of the shit that happens on there is like, oh, something touched me. I'm like, how the fuck do I know that?
Yeah.
You're on TV. You could just be making it up. Or you could just be imagining it.
I'm glad, in my case, objects were moving, because we knew that the objects were moved.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's a little more definitive.
Yeah, we knew that those moved. So
than, oh, just something touched me.
You're right. We knew we weren't going crazy. Yeah. We're like, man, that was from downstairs. How'd that get in this room? It didn't pass us. Yeah. We were standing in the doorway. How did it get in here? You know, must have penetrated through the matter or teleported. The only way is fucking... But we don't understand much about physics. We think we do, but more I'm listening to some of these science programs like Event Horizon. They'll have these scientists on all these different disciplines, quantum mechanics and fucking different kind of fucking string theories and stuff. They really don't know what matter is or what space is. It's all... It might, you know, realities are a lot weirder than we think it is, you know.
That's true.
We have explanations for it that seem to work, but there's more to it than that. They were saying that AI eventually might figure it out. AI supercomputers will probably be able to understand reality a little bit better than us, because it's going to be able to look at the universe, the whole cosmos, the way it's working. And there's things we don't know about dark matter and what is actual space made out of, that kind of stuff.
Strawberry jam. We'll figure it out one of these days.
Three-dimensional space may not seem to be real because of expansion, you know.
So here's Karen again, and she decides she's gonna do a clearing to get the ghost to cross over, and she's doing. I've actually never. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do this particular thing before. It's kind of like an EVP session, but she asks questions of the ghosts, and then she draws a card from the tarot deck, and she just considers that her answer.
Yeah.
Which seems a little...
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Lame?
It's like something... I don't trust psychics. Some people swear by them, but... Like they had that German parapsychologist. He says you had to have a trance medium before you could get to anything, a good one. Before you could solve any of these poltergeist and ghost cases. What was the name of that guy? You remember him? He was German parapsychology. He's dead now. He was old when I was young.
Who was it? Roll?
Yeah, I think it's something. I think that might have been his name. But mediums and psychics can spin yarns too. You know what I mean? You're dealing with some. You know, that's fallible.
And some of them
might you can measure.
And
know?
some of them might actually believe their own bullshit. Like, some
Yeah.
of them might be, like, self-deluded.
Yeah, so I don't trust that. I only trust things that can be measured.
Yeah, like I said, because that's also subjective. They could have all kind of feelings. I can have fucking feelings.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that has, like, any analog in the real world.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you know, there's an outside chance that their feelings might be correct, but there's no way to prove that they're correct.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
See, so,
yeah, we're not like shitting on everybody's feelings or anything like that, because obviously people's feelings do turn out to be correct. I'm just saying that there's really no way to measure that.
Yeah. The Army believed in this kind of shit. You know, they had fucking Project Stargate where they were doing remote viewing, and some remote viewers could actually target images. In one case, it was some fucking Typhoon-class submarines. They didn't know that they existed. They didn't know that those existed in Russia. But they described it. They could see it through this remote viewing technique that they were using. Later on, it was confirmed that it was a submarine. And it was a Typhoon-class submarine. They didn't know about them. But here's the thing, man. It's difficult to measure that. A satellite would be a lot better. A satellite, you get a picture of it. You go, yeah, it's there. A psychic dude describing it, there's an element of, it might have been luck. If you do enough predictions.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You throw enough shit at the wall,
some of it will stick.
Some of it's going to stick.
Yeah.
Just by pure coincidence or law of averages.
Yeah, and the way they were remote viewing was different. You know what I mean? It's not as I expected. I expected maybe they would like go into a trance and fucking go out of body, which that's happened to me before. You go out of body and you're in like what you would call, I guess, the astral realm or the slightly outside the physical. And then you maybe appear there and see it. That's not how they were doing it. They were doing it by kind of like asking questions about something that was unrelated, and the person would make an answer, but the person doing the questioning was actually asking about something totally unrelated and forming an image or a description of what they were asking. So it was kind of like double blind.
Right.
The person who was supposedly in the trance had no idea of what the person asking the questions was trying to target.
Right.
That way, the person supposedly, it was like a way of kind of doing random generation, but the subconscious of that person was free from conscious thought, so it was able to describe it. It was weird how they were doing it. It was not a thing where, okay, I see it. It's not like that. The person never saw it. They were just answering a bunch of questions. The other guy's forming an image through a bunch of pre-planned questions, like a questionnaire.
Right.
And from that, he's going, okay, yeah, it's 300 feet long. It weighs this much. It's got fucking 5 tubes on it. And the person that supposedly saw it had no idea that it was a submarine.
Yeah.
So it was like a double blind.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one way to do it. I mean, at least they were trying to forestall the possibility that, you were suggesting something to somebody or something. Because, like I said, that's a really difficult test to set up because so much of it is, like I said, subjective.
Yeah,
so.
And the way the Army was doing it is that it was totally random. So the person giving the results had no idea what they were really looking for. So he couldn't put his own conscious suggestions into it.
Right. But that's good. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to, in scientific studies like that, you're always supposed to minimize the possibility that anybody is suggesting anything to anybody or anything like that. You're not supposed to be influencing the outcome.
So they kind of had that, and in that system, the guys that were using it in the Army, this is old now, they ended that program. It did exist. It's not something out of science fiction. I forgot. What was I going to say? They got it to where the person who's supposedly in the trance viewing could be anybody. They weren't any kind of special psychic. It was more like they're just using a person as a vehicle for random generation. But somehow, those random answers, I guess you could say, going through this formula would end up forming a description of a target that they wanted to see. And the person who was supposedly seeing it had no idea. Weird. So there was no claims of any psychic abilities in the person seeing it.
Right.
They're just making a decision, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, basically. Crazy.
That is kind of crazy.
But that's how they were doing it.
Yeah.
Is that anybody could be a remote viewer with this system. Because they don't even know what they're doing. They're like a random number generator.
They're just winging it.
Yeah, the person is being used like a random number generator, basically.
Right. Yeah, well, like I said, that's technically, if you're going to do an experiment like that, that's one of the better ways to do it.
Yeah. I used to know exactly how it was, but, because it's been a long time since I read the book, but that's just how I remembered it.
Camp Guy brings up the Milgram experiment. Did we ever do a show about that?
No.
That's a good
Maybe we
one.
ought to do some shit like that.
Yeah, the one where they told the subject they were sending electric shocks to another subject. Yeah, something like 80% of all citizens would continue to give shocks if instructed to do so by an authority figure continue to fatal levels. Yeah, a lot of them would.
People are obedient.
Well, I think that after it got up until like where it started getting really bad, it's obviously the percentage started falling off somewhat because people did start to protest. But yeah, alarmingly, like most people actually did go along with it, like way longer than they should have.
On a related subject of this, I've been listening to this audiobook that's on YouTube, and I encourage everybody to listen to it. It was written in the 50s by a guy from the Netherlands named Joost, Joost, and I remember he was a medical doctor, an MD, and it's called Rape of the Mind, and he talks about how the Soviets and the Nazis and any kind of like totalitarian governments, how they brainwash people. It's about brainwashing and how it works. It's fucking fascinating, man, because you see it happen. You see the United States using the same techniques, how to frame things through corporate media, and it's called Rape of the Mind, and you can listen to it for free on YouTube. I encourage everybody to see it. But it's kind of like the Milgram experiment. They say that people are basically subservient, that they'll believe what they're told, as long as it sounds official. And they talk about the statistics and everything and why they're doing it and what kind of psychologies are involved and who falls for this and why. It's about guilt and shame and how you can use that to get people to enslave themselves. It's really good. And this is written in the 50s, so it's not clouded by modern politics. It's just the technique of how it's done.
So where were we? Tarot cards. So she's basically asking questions, and like I said, this just seemed really dumb to me because she's like, "Oh well, do you want to go like cross over or whatever?" She asked the ghost, and then she turns over the card of like the sun or something. She's like, "Oh, that means yes," and I was like, "Does it? Okay, I'll take your word for it." And then she turns over the, because they always have to do one of the sinister ones. They didn't pull the death card this time, but they did pull the hanged man. So she's like, "Oh, well, I heard that somebody hanged themselves in this bar." I'm like, if you know anything about tarot cards, the hanged man doesn't even mean that. Like, it doesn't mean literally a hanged man. You know what I mean? Yeah, it sounds sinister and shit like that, but they all represent something else. They're all symbolic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but so they didn't even like bring that up again, like I said. So I
had that Crowley tarot card set.
I got a set somewhere.
Remember that thing?
Yeah.
I had the manual that went with it and everything. It was interesting. And you could ask yourself questions and start doing readings for yourself, and you could kind of feel that I could see what it's trying to tell me, but it's like horoscopes.
Yeah.
It's just like horoscopes. It's not real. It's just it's emotion.
Well, and I kind of feel like most of the time, if you're consulting tarot cards about a problem that you're having, for example, well, the thing about it is that I feel like on some subterranean level, you already know the answer to your problem. You just feel like you need like an outside force to like confirm it.
Man, I'll tell you what.
But you're just basically. Like, you already know the answer. You're just massaging it into the answer that
I'm going to tell you
want.
a fucking story, though. This is some fucking cool shit. In Boston, there was a bar called the Rathskeller. It was a famous punk rock club over near Fenway. It's gone now. Sex Pistols played there, but I think the Clash actually played there downstairs. They had a dude who was a regular. Me and Tyrone was another guy. Would hang out with this dude off and on. He's there almost all the time, and he was like Indian. He was like from India. He was really good with like fucking shit like tarot and fucking astrology and shit. And he would get drunk and fucking tell a fortune for you. And that bitch was right. Quite often. One time, I was trying to buy a used motorcycle. I had the money, and it was at a dealership. It was a fucking Bandit 400. They wanted giving it for a song. And for some reason, they said, the price was only like $600. I had the money. And they said, well, we can't. Come back next week. I think we can sell it to you. I didn't know what the problem was at the time. I found out later that that was a trade-in motorcycle on a deal that dealership did, but there was a lien on that motorcycle they didn't know, so they couldn't sell it. But I didn't know that at the time. So I asked him about this. I said, this place won't sell me the motorcycle. I don't know what the fucking problem is. They keep telling me come back in a couple days. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's because Venus is in retrograde, this and that. Paperwork's all fucked up now. That'll never happen. I said, what are you talking about that'll never happen? He goes, yeah, and he's talking about certain stars, and he's like, yeah, that won't happen. A lot of loans and shit. This is a bad time to get a loan. Never did get it. I found out later that, they had a lien on that motorcycle. They couldn't sell it. But it was weird, you know what I mean? That he kind of predicted that there's no way you'll get that. Even though I had the money.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, we're in a bar. Yeah. We were in a bar. But that dude was really good about... He was like a swami.
Some people are really good at that kind of stuff. Yeah. But the thing about it is that to be good at that kind of stuff, like you have to be like a magician, like a cold reader.
Exactly.
You have to know about cold reading. Yeah. And you have to be able to read people like really quickly. Yeah. But
I don't know how he knew that the fucking title would be locked up. I didn't know. I was just, man, I won't buy.
Well, maybe he was just winging it, like just saying, "Oh, it's a bad time to get a loan, so you're not going to get it." Yeah, he says
because of this star in retrograde. He says, "No, it's a bad time right now for."
Ben said maybe he placed the lien on the bike.
Yeah. He was cool though. He was like in his 50s and had long hair. He was real dark skinned. Fucking women liked him and shit. And if you give him a fucking picture of that Rathskeller on tap beer, you can get like a picture of that shit for $4. Give him a picture, and he'd sit there and tell fortunes for you all fucking night. Any question you'd ask him, he'd come up with some shit. Fucking, and he could word it the right way. It was just like reading the fucking horoscope. You know how a horoscope kind of fit anybody?
Yeah.
He could word it so it fucking real cool. He was very entertaining. I forgot the guy's name. I haven't thought of that dude in a long time. It was back in the fucking 90s.
Yeah, that's a pretty common thing they do, like in critical thinking classes and stuff like that. Is they print out a bunch of horoscopes and they give them to everybody in the class and say, "Oh, I printed out a personalized horoscope for all of you, and I want you to like mark how accurate it is." And they said most of the kids in the class will say, "Oh my god, it's super accurate," and then they find out that they gave everybody the same one.
Yeah. He was good at it though, man, and he was real entertaining at the fucking bar, man. And that was his in with the chicks. Chicks would be sitting there talking to him, and he'd tell them give him fucking fortunes all fucking night.
I don't know, man. If I'm in a bar and like some dude starts talking to me about like Venus being a retrograde and stuff, I'm bye.
Well, his delivery was really cool. He had an accent.
I'm like, unless you got some good drugs or something,
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
and he wasn't asking for money.
Okay.
He wasn't asking for money. You just kept giving him some beers, and he'd sit there and fucking tell fortunes all fucking night.
That's pretty funny. Will soothsay for beer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like we were saying, this whole hanged man thing, they never bring that up again. Like, oh, I heard somebody was hanged to this. I was like I said, that's not fucking literal, that card. So Karen says, just very casually, I'm gonna create a light for the spirits to walk through. She does not get into the specifics of how she does this. She's just very nonchalant about it, and I was just like, wait, what? Okay, what does that entail? But she doesn't tell anybody. I'm just gonna make a light for the spirits to walk through, like it was the most natural thing in the world.
I remember that dude's name. His name was VJ. He was an Indian guy named VJ. It's just funny. I remembered his name. Okay, go ahead. Can't believe I remembered that dude's name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she doesn't create a literal light, obviously. I guess it's a figurative light, which, again, convenient. So she does that, and apparently one of the ghosts is like, oh, okay, thanks, ma'am, and just, like, walks through, and I was like, what? Okay, that was easy. Like, I didn't even fucking see a light or anything. Now, Karen says to Lynn, though, well, there is one more ghost in the building, but I don't think this one is sinister. This is the one that's, like, been quiet or whatever, so I don't think you'll have any more problems. So, just kind of, like, live with it or whatever. So they said no weird shit happened for the next 3 days, like, after Karen made the light for the ghost to disappear into. Seriously, I really want to know. I wish she'd have, like, said how she did it. She didn't, like... She just said it like it was something she did every fucking day. It's just, like, it was just really weird to me. So yeah. But 3 days later, like, after it being quiet, Lynn is closing up with one of the bartenders, and a martini glass comes flying off a shelf and, like, smashes into the bartender's hand and, like, cuts it. And the bartender also says that she sees Jason, like, in a mirror that's in the bar, like, across from the bar, like, in the restaurant, even though Jason is not there, like, he's already gone home for the night. So she's like, I just saw him, like, in the mirror, you know what I mean? So yeah. Lynn then invites some of her friends over, because they said, well, she doesn't really, she owns a bar and a restaurant now, so she doesn't really have a social life anymore, so she invites, like, 3 or 4 of her girlfriends over to kind of, like, hang out and have dinner and stuff like that in the restaurant. And while they're all sitting around shooting the shit, her necklace, which I think was a St. Christopher medal, it kind of pulls up by itself and, like, starts choking her. So it, like, pulls, like, way back, like that. And she essentially just, like, falls down on the floor like she's choking to death. And all the other women are like, what the fuck are you doing? I thought it was so funny. They were just, like, so, like, not sympathetic at first. They said, what are you doing? Even though it's clear that the necklace is, like, coming up by itself. And she's like, I'm obviously not doing anything. Please help me. But so, yeah. So she kind of, like, falls on the floor. And I guess, like, the St. Christopher medal, like, comes off. Like, gets pulled off her. So, yeah. It turns out that I guess the ghost that Karen sent into the light or whatever was not the asshole. The one that remains is the asshole. So, there's a plot twist right there. So they said over the next few days, the place became really oppressive and, like, feeling really dangerous, you know what I mean? So one afternoon, they said it was really busy, like a lot more busy than usual for this time of day. And Lynn, this was really weird. Lynn said she started, but again, subjective, she started hearing everyone's thoughts. Like, she's standing in the bar and she all of a sudden heard all of these voices in her head, and they were all talking about her, but they were all saying really negative shit. Like, what the fuck is this drink this bitch made me? And it's like, she doesn't know what she's doing, and all this other kind of shit. So, like, everybody was, like, talking smack about her. And,
talking smack.
like, in her head, you know what I mean? Yeah. But she said there was 57 people, and because she specifically said there was 57 people.
Counted them all.
Like, thinking shitty stuff about her.
Just like hounds. Just like the cat.
Yeah, it was the 57 varieties.
57 varieties, yeah.
57 varieties of people thinking shitty things about her. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that was, like, kind of a weird, and I was like, but I kind of feel like if that happened to me just suddenly like that, I think I'd be going to a shrink, because that sounds like schizophrenia or something like that right there. But yeah, if you and especially because if you think, because I'm sure 57 people are not all talking about you, like get the fuck over yourself. But you know what I mean? It's just, like she just started thinking
She was having
that, like,
a paranoia attack.
Yeah, she was having like an attack of paranoia, I guess.
Yeah, but it's plausible. Maybe like you said, you're in a bad house or you got an evil fucking vibe. It causes you to fold in on yourself and you think everybody's after you. You know, but just give it. But it also just could have been stress, panic.
Yeah.
You're not in control, so you...
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure this was a paranormal
Might not have been paranormal. Might have been
event.
a psychological repercussions of the stress maybe caused by a paranormal event. Maybe.
Well, and
Not
by the stress of, like, running the restaurant, too, like, on top of
all
it.
that shit happening at once, yeah.
Right.
So
like,
I'm not
I
call
can see
bullshit
that.
on her. It's just that may not have been paranormal.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying it didn't happen to her.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
just saying that might not have been paranormal. That might have just been her being stressed out. Which, like I said, I mean, understandably, she's very stressed out. Yeah, and at this point, this was, like, her breaking point. She just, like, can't take it anymore. She's like, fuck this. And she just, like, runs in the back room and starts crying and freaking out. And Jason comes back there to see what's the matter with her. And he apparently thinks something, like, she can hear it. He thinks something and it's like, man, we are not going to the hospital. This is, like, so embarrassing. Or something like that. Like, he thinks that. And she, like, looks at him, like, fucking looks daggers at the motherfucker. And he's like, what? And she's, you know, and she repeats, like, what he apparently was thinking. And they didn't specify, like, if he was like, holy shit, that really was what I was thinking. He didn't say that. But he just kind of stands there going, and she's like, I heard you. You know what I mean? So I don't know if he really was thinking that. Because you'd think that he would have said, holy shit, she said exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he didn't say that. So maybe she was just imagining.
Pookie's being all lovey.
Aw, what's up, Pookie? Want to come up in the lap?
Don't pull me.
No, don't pull me.
Yeah, there we go.
Aw,
be on the
Pookie.
show, Pook.
Pookie wants
You're
to
a
be on
guest
the show.
You're a guest on the show.
Yeah, special guest Pookie.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. She's being good.
Yeah, mostly. She's a little bratty, but that's okay. So yeah, at this point, Jason's like, okay, you really need a break because you're clearly having like a nervous breakdown. So she actually takes a few days off, like, and stays home for a few days. And Jason's like, you know, I think we should probably sell this place. I mean, it's stressing you out. It's just, like, not worth it. But Lynn is like, you know, we've worked so hard. I don't really want to get rid of it. So she ends up going to yet another psychic. Holy crap. How many psychics does she know? I don't know. But so she goes to this other psychic whose name is Pam Faith. I think they said what her name was. And she actually goes to Pam's place to talk to her. But Pam's like, no. She's like, I know that the bar is your problem, so I want to go there. So she wants to come to the bar. And she's like, I'm going to come here and, you know, release your bad spirits. And implies low-key that maybe there's some demons. Because you know some demons had to get involved at some point. It can't just be ghosts, you know what I mean? So Pam comes in and she basically says, well, you got lots and lots of spirits in here. And there's an entity in the basement, which is, guess what? Demonic.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you had to have one.
You know they're going to be demonic, Pookie. Why is
Yeah.
your head so little? Why is Pookie's head so little?
It's so round.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a little round head.
Yeah.
Look at her little chill face.
Yeah, she's chill.
She's like,
She's
okay.
like, I'm on TV.
Pookie's on TV.
Yeah.
John Gore said, I was having a nervous breakdown looking for a camera charger for over an hour. It was literally in an ice bucket that was right in front of me. I have that shit happen all the time. Where the fuck is this? I just had it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's right there. Okay. I'm fine. All right. So Pam basically says, I'm going to go down to the basement and like confront the demonic entity. You know what I mean? You stay here in constant prayer. That's what she says to Lynn. So Lynn just stays up there. She does exactly what she's told. She stays up there and just like prays over and over and over. So Pam goes down to the basement to, you know, confront the demon and kick his ass out or whatever. You know, telling God, get rid of this demon and all that other kind of shit. And so at this point, there's like, seems like there's a lot of shadows flitting around, some phantom wind. They throw that in there, like some light swinging around, that kind of shit, you know, to kind of make it look more dramatic. And so apparently there wasn't a lot, there wasn't like a big climax of this. Pam just basically goes down in the basement and walks around and says, hey God, get rid of the demon. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, we felt the energy shift. and the demon was gone. And I was like,
Yeah.
that was it.
You just ask God, and there it is.
That was some wimpy ass demon.
Yeah.
He's just, oh, okay.
Normally they fight back.
That's what I'm saying.
You gotta have a whole priest and everything.
A whole priest.
Got a whole, not a half a priest, a whole fucking priest.
Just the bottom half of the priest
yeah.
is gonna show up.
What do you
and
think
like,
about that, Boo?
bottom half of a priest, Bookie.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, I don't know what you're talking
She's like,
about.
I have no idea.
But
You want to get up in here and hang out with Danny? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Aw,
I'm
she's
baby
it.
talking to the kitty.
We always do. That's how she knows we're talking to her.
Yeah.
That's the Pookie voice.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was a good episode.
It is a good episode.
Yeah.
But I just thought like the end was a little anticlimactic because it wasn't like, and I know that's kind of like hypocritical of me because
Yeah.
I usually kind of like shit on the ones that have like a big exorcism thing because I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
they're like waving the camera around and like flashing lights. It's like nobody said they saw that. Come on. This one though, it just seemed like, oh, it's a demon all of a sudden, and
Yeah.
then the psychic goes down in the basement and wanders around, and then all of a sudden, woohoo, it's gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, she didn't even like throw salt at it or
Yeah.
do any kind of like big hosannas or anything. She didn't do anything like that.
The strong part about this case is that there were many witnesses.
There were a lot, yeah.
What they reported was interesting. Not super impressive, but it's interesting that so many people had little experiences in there. It might have been a bad place. You know what I mean? But a lot of the other stuff, there's no way to prove it or disprove it. You just go with what they said. You know, I mean, yeah, I felt the energy shift, and it's gone now.
Yeah, because apparently
Yeah.
that's the psychic comes back up from the
Yeah.
basement, and Lynn knew immediately, oh, the demon's gone. Like, she could feel it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But see, like I said, the subjective stuff is not... But this one did have a lot of kind of, like, poltergeisty type activity,
Yeah.
where with, like, shit flying around and stuff.
Right.
Which, that, to me, is, like, a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Because at least, like, multiple people could see that.
I've never seen anything exactly like this personally, but in my experience with having a poltergeist case and being in a bad house another time, I can imagine that probably what it was is it was like a bad place. There was some poltergeist type phenomena there. I would call it probably like mild haunting. I probably would have been kind of like impressed if I saw it. It's like, yeah, okay, this is the real thing. But it wasn't impressive as a poltergeist case that I was involved in. You know, a lot more shit was moving. But you know, this people that have never seen anything like that, it would have wigged them out. And all this other all this stuff around the edges of, you know, demons and oh, it went away. That was their perception of it. It might still be there. It might just be a kind of a small disturbance of some sort. It's weird. There's no way of knowing.
Because they
You'd
did
have to be
say
there.
at the end that they were kind of like, well, it seemed like the paranormal activity stopped after that, but you know, they always kind of like leave it open, like, oh, but
Right.
maybe it'll come back. You know what I mean? Because they
Right.
still got that mirror in there.
That's
the
what I would
portal or
think. If
whatever.
it was there, it's probably still there. It probably just, for some reason or another, kind of went more dormant. And there's just no way to explain why. You'd have to fucking astrally project, see, and go into the fucking astral realm and go to that area and see what it is. If it's still there or not, to really know. And then when you came back, people would really wouldn't believe what you saw. Just like people don't realize that fucking Reverend Hung Sung Moon destroyed communism himself by going astral.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
When
the nice thing
motherfucker-
about saying that
the
is you can
Moonies
say that
fucking
you
ended
did
communism.
you could say you did anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, yeah, but you wouldn't know about it because I
Yeah.
was in the astral plane, and
Yeah,
you don't know anything about
He
that.
went,
so.
Reverend Moon went into the astral plane and fixed it. He says, okay,
Well, good for him. You know?
communism, that's gone. That's a wrap. It's going to take time.
Yeah, I
though.
worked that out.
I worked it out. It's going to take time.
I'm gonna
It'll take time.
I'm gonna start telling people anytime that anybody just says it's like, oh my god, thank God they solved that. That was
Right.
me. I don't know if you
Yeah.
know. I went astral and solved that shit. You're welcome.
But, you know, laughing and joking, I had that happen to me. It was spontaneous. I didn't try to do it, just did it. In the barracks when I was in the Army, and I had a near-death experience. That shit's real. I don't. It's hard, near impossible to want to do it. It's something that kind of just happens. Trying to do it foils it. You have to kind of just give up the ghost. You have to it's like a willing yourself to die. Is what it feels like. it is a real zone. Now, do I think you can go over there and fix communism? No. 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 Not at all.
Can you go over there and fix other things?
Probably. Seemed like it. You can interact with things. Thing is, though, is that you change when you exteriorize. You go out and you go, oh yeah, communism, yeah. There's a certain zen in allowing things to remain fucked up. I'm gonna leave communism. That's the way you would. That's the plan for the universe. You know, that's how you would proceed.
So you just go to the astral plane and become a bum that doesn't.
You're kind of like a bum. Kind of like a bum. You become very self-centered.
I'm just gonna lay here on the couch metaphorically and just not do anything.
You're like, well, yeah, that's good. It's supposed to
whatever.
be like
I don't give a shit.
It's supposed to be like that. Just let that go. Yeah.
I could fix it, but why?
Yeah. You couldn't fix it though. I don't think.
That's so funny. That would actually make a good short story. Somebody that could go into the astral plane and fix stuff.
Yeah. Look how fucked that up. Look how fucked up that is. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm just gonna leave it. Yeah. I'm gonna experience the zen of just leaving it like that. Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, but there's a fine line between leaving shit zen and just being lazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a very fine line.
I'm just predicting how it would go from your point of view. It'd be like that. I didn't go look at communism when I was out. I wasn't worried about that. You see this shit from the astral plane. Look at communism. God damn. How do I fix this? Where's Moon at? You know.
He's probably over here, right?
Yeah, where you at, Moon? Hey, say, come on over here, bro. Check it out. I don't speak Hangul, all right? You can keep your ass over in Korea, but let's look at this shit together. We fix this, fucking South Korea will be set, bro. How do we stop this? I can imagine that's too fucking funny. He goes, move this over there. That'll fix it. It'll fall apart. Oh, I see it.
Unplug it and plug it back in again.
Make him reboot that. Look at that gulag. Yeah. Just let it be.
Oh my god, this is a hilarious discussion. Yeah. All right, so I guess we better start wrapping it up because it's almost 9 o'clock, and I gotta take a shower, and we have to watch the end of. Remember when we were doing the review yesterday?
Gloria.
Of Leon the Professional, and we mentioned the movie Gloria, so we actually found it on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, $3.99
for $3.99. So
we're halfway through it. It's a long movie.
We started watching it last night, but I couldn't stay awake. I kept like dozing off, and then Tom kept going, "Hey," and I was like, "Hey, god damn it!" I was like,
"It's a good movie. It's better than I remembered it."
It is. It's really good.
Yeah,
it's really good. Well, I didn't realize, but the main actress, what's her fucking name? God damn it! It's just I had it.
Looks like our friend Angel.
She does a bit.
Yeah.
I can't remember it, but I think she was nominated for an Oscar the year this came out. I think it came out in 1980. And somebody said it got remade, too, like with Sharon Stone.
And it is like The Professional.
The plot is very similar. Like, it's not exactly the same.
And the little boy loves her.
But the setup is very, very similar. Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah, and the little boy loves her, thinks that he thinks that she's his girlfriend.
That little kid's a trip.
Yeah, he's a trip.
Tom said
You're a very difficult woman.
Tom said, it's like, look, he looks like a tiny Art Garfunkel.
Yeah. Forehead and everything. He got a 6 head.
And he's got like a little afro.
Head. Yeah.
Because, it was 1980.
A little Puerto Rican Art Garfunkel.
Yeah. He does look like a tiny Puerto Rican Art Garfunkel. It's super funny.
Yeah. The sound of silence.
That's a good song.
Yeah. Shut up. Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I like Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah, they were good.
Zach says Natalie Portman. Yeah, she was in Leon the Professional. Mm-hmm. We talked about it yesterday. I don't think you were here though. Was Zach not here yesterday?
Yeah, I guess he wasn't.
Yeah, we talked about that movie yesterday, and then we brought up the movie Gloria, which is because Tom remembered it being. It's from 1980, but it's very, very similar. The plot is very similar.
Yeah, it's just gender swapped.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like an older woman. Although I can't. Like I said, I can't. What is her fucking name that's in it? It's right on the tip of my tongue. And you said, well, she's not as old as I remembered her being. Because you described it as her being like an old white-haired, and she's maybe 50.
She's maybe 50, yeah.
Right.
I remember her being
Gina Rollins, thank you.
Yeah, I remember her being more like 60.
Yeah.
But no,
she's
about
not
50.
She's not that old.
But she's as I remembered her. Tough gangster broad.
Yeah.
She was a gangster mistress.
She's super funny. Like, at the beginning, like, when they were trying to pawn the kid off, she's like, I hate kids, and I specifically hate your kids. And I was like, yeah, I feel that.
And she has some gangster skills, too. Those guys pulled up to try to abduct that kid so they could kill him. He had the book, and just without warning, she opened fires on the car. Pop, 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 pop. The car's fucking running away and fucking roll the car.
Yeah, because I'm watching that, and I was like, holy shit. Tom's like, yeah, you weren't expecting that, were you? I was like, I was not. I was not.
Yeah, she quick drawed that fucking sick little 5-shot fucking 38 special she had.
I was like, damn, you go, girl.
Yeah. And later on, she's fucking taking guns from gangsters. Took a lot of gangsters' guns from them. Took their ammo, gave them the guns back on one.
Yeah,
another one,
she gives zero.
Tried to shoot me with a Magnum. She fucking took that 357 Magnum snub nose. She's got that now, too. That's about where we left off.
Yeah, we might have to
it's very realistic.
We might have to back it up a few minutes because I think I fell asleep.
Yeah, it's a very realistic movie. It's not like over the top action or anything. It's kind of like how shit goes in certain ways.
Yeah, Zach says she was Oscar nominated for that movie, while the kid was Razzie nominated.
Really? He's not bad.
I was thinking while I was watching it, like, his character's hilarious because, like, some of the shit that he says is really funny.
Yeah.
But you can tell at every moment that he's acting.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't.
Yeah. He's not an actor.
No.
He's a kid.
He's just a kid in a movie that's clearly trying to act.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
But he's young. He's 6, I think.
Yeah. Well, he's supposed to be 6. He looks a little bit older, but I'm not good at, like, judging kids' ages. You know what I mean?
I think he's about 6.
But yeah, that's how old he's supposed to be. All right, so we are going to wrap it up for the evening. So Wednesday night is the main show, as you guys know, and I'm very excited because we are going to be doing the show on Vincent Price. I'm so jazzed. That was what won in the poll. So I thought it was about time to cover Vincent Price because we already did Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing and Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, and Vincent Price got kind of left out. Now we'll have to do a show about Basil Rathbone too, I guess. Oh well. Or like Lon Chaney. We're like opening up a whole can of worms. But yeah, we're totally doing a show about Vincent Price on Wednesday night, so that should be super, super fun. So watch some Vincent Price movies in preparation, and we'll talk about that on Wednesday. But yeah, thanks everybody for dropping by, and thanks for super chats and all of that. Remember to like and do all that kind of stuff. I always forget to say that. Oh, and also I put up 2 videos over the weekend if you didn't see them. I put up a book review, and I put up something over on Scare Salon where I'm doing the Boris Karloff thriller series. Like, I did the last 5 episodes of season 1. So if you didn't see that, then it's like an hour long, so go check it out. So yeah, we'll see you guys again on Wednesday night. Good